Hey there, it's Andrea Nakayama back with our Reframe This series, our video series looking at how we reframe a clinical question to look at it through a more functional lens so that we can find our way into a case with more agility and more success. So today I'm going to answer a question from Misty, who asks me to reframe this. What do I do with a client who is overwhelmed? She has scleroderma, hypertension, fibrosis, and she doesn't feel like she has the room to experiment with non-evidence-based practices like those in functional medicine. I guess my big reframe there, Misty, is who says functional medicine isn't evidence-based? There is plenty of evidence looking at just the skills alone in the functional medicine matrix. So if we take the functional nutrition matrix and we look at the skills section, so remember we have the story with the ATMs where we're looking at antecedents, triggers, and mediators, plenty of evidence for those. We look at the soup, which is where we have all the physiological functions. Again, plenty of evidence to show that there is a web of interconnections there. And then we have the skills. But let's just look at the skills and say that with exercise and movement, with sleep and relaxation, with stress reduction and resilience, there's a tremendous amount of evidence to show that when we address these things, we start to reverse chronic conditions. Pick one alone and start to talk to her about that. So there's a tremendous amount of evidence-based studies around the benefits of meditation and stress reduction. This is the whole realm of psychoneuroimmunology. So when we're looking at these conditions, these chronic conditions like hypertension and fibrosis and scleroderma, which is autoimmune, there's a lot of evidence there. So I think it's a matter of reframing that main question. Who says that a functional approach isn't evidence-based? And in fact, this is the way that she can take care of herself as opposed to just handing herself over with these chronic health conditions. So what you're providing her with is the opportunity to step back in the driver's seat. I like to say it's a yes and situation. It's not either or. So while she's engaging in the medical practices and the medical interventions that might help her with the acute management, she has to look at the long-term effects of these conditions. She has to look at what led to them in a long-term way. So remember, chronic illnesses did not happen overnight. They're a constellation of dysfunctions that add up to lead to that diagnosis. So for her, she needs to reframe, why do I have these diagnoses and how do I address them? I address them with a yes and. How do my medical doctors, who are not necessarily functionally based, address it to help me manage the acute impact of these diagnoses? And how do I, as the patient, with your help, Misty, really start to reframe my role in my everyday life and what impact that has on the manifestation of my signs, my symptoms, and the progression of my diagnosis. That's what functional medicine is. And if we break it down and look at each one of the areas of the matrix, there is plenty of evidence. As I said, plenty of evidence around stress alone and the manifestation of autoimmunity and inflammatory chronic conditions. You can go to PubMed and find plenty of studies, plenty of evidence in relation to that. There's plenty of evidence in relation to the gut microbiome and autoimmune conditions like scleroderma. So again, when we're looking at any chronic condition, there's plenty of evidence leading us back to the health of the digestive system, and that's exactly what we explore in the Digestive Intensive. Remember, go back, digestiveintensive.com. If you are a student of the Digestive Intensive, go back to your materials and look at it through the 3 tiers that we discuss in relation to autoimmunity. If you have not done the Digestive Intensive, now is the time. The doors to the Digestive Intensive are open. Again, go to digestiveintensive.com. We start class on June 28th. And in the meantime, let's continue this conversation. And if you have a question you'd like me to reframe through my lens of clinical care and through the lens of functional nutrition, please write "Reframe This" with your question down below, and I'll keep these videos coming. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Misty.